Do you have trouble finding things, especially finding genealogy records? Today on the Genealogy Software Showcase, we're going to look at a research tool that will help you find things, even if you don't know what you don't know. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Genealogy Software Showcase. We'll jump right into it. GenSmarts is a genealogy research tool program that has been around since 2003. It's a program written by an Aaron Underwood of Underwood Innovations, and he has been supporting this tool himself. You see it sold on the Roots Magic website. I believe it's also sold Legacy Family Tree website. So the program's around, and I want to talk today, show you what the program can do, talk about some of the differences between what GenSmarts does and what the normal hint process in your favorite tree building software can do. So with no further ado, let's jump into it. On my desktop here, you see I've got the program open, and I'm going to maximize it just to get a little bit better picture. What you're looking at is the information about the genealogy file itself. I've previously loaded this particular file, but I'm going to start from the beginning so that you can see all the different formats that GenSmarts supports. If I go to File, thank you, and I go to Open, you'll see here that GenSmarts can support files from Family Tree Maker. It can support files from PATH, which is a program that's not supported anymore, that's not around anymore. The Master Genealogist, which we've been talking about in the YouTube chat, has not been supported since 2014, but is still around. Roots Magic files, Ancestral Family Tree files, of course the GEDCOM format, and you'll see that today. Legacy Family Tree, which we'll play with today. Ultimate Family Tree files, Brothers Keeper, Ancestral Quest, and GenSmart filter files. Now there's also something on the Heritage Family Tree Deluxe and Family Trees Quick and Easy files. Those are grayed out on my computer. I don't have those programs loaded. Well, no, let's start with the GEDCOM file. And that's the file that I'm going to start working with today. Now you see here that according to this file, there are 3,173 individuals. It recognized 528 families. Now, from last week, I know that there are more than that in there, so it looks like it's not recognizing some of the relationships. The file itself is about 3 megabytes. So the program itself will give you information about the GEDCOM, but that's not what you want with this program. You can get that information anywhere. The real strength of this feature is on the suggestions that it makes. And what I'm going to do is choose a single person from my own family tree, last name Charles and Edward Smith. And I believe I was named after Edward. It is my great-grandfather, who passed away before I was born, actually passed away when my grandmother was a child. That is where my name came from. And you see here that there are 2 records that show up for suggestions. First of all, it's suggesting that I look at Virginia marriage records. If you look at the lower part of the screen, you'll see that it justifies why it is making that suggestion. In this case, researching Virginia marriage records makes sense because he was married in 1906 in Newport News, Independent Cities, Virginia, USA. It also concludes that this is a source that I don't have, and it recognizes that. However, it chooses to recognize source files in the GEDCOM, which can be a bit tricky, so it depends on where this was exported from. Now, this particular file was exported from Ancestry.com, and it could be that it doesn't recognize any of the source records the way that Ancestry chose to populate the GEDCOM, or maybe it's only recognizing a few. It gives me a little bit of background about Edward Smith Charles. Now, the background it's giving is information that it has determined based on information in the GEDCOM itself. So it hasn't gone out and magically discovered things about my great-grandfather. But it is providing some background because I may want to have that background handy when I follow up on this research. The second one is it is recommending that I look at the birth records in Surrey, Virginia, because that's where he was born. I'm going to stick with the name Charles, but this is Charles Thompson. For a long time, my brick wall. And let's see what GenSmarts would have recommended. Now, in this case, GenSmarts has how many records? How many suggestions? If I look up here, it says it has 14 suggestions for where I might look for additional information about Charles Henry Thompson. Now, when I first started doing genealogy, I didn't know about any of these records. I didn't know what birth records might be available. I didn't know what marriage records might be available. I didn't know what collections were already out there that I might be able to tap into to find the answers to some of my genealogy research questions. This provides me a list of resources that aren't guaranteed to have information about my ancestor, but are likely to have information about my ancestor based on the various pieces of information and the justification that GenSmarts, the program, provides. The GEDCOM file isn't the only source that GenSmarts can read from, and I want to show you how you can import data from other programs into GenSmarts. The first one I'm going to look at is Roots Magic, and the reason I'm going to look at Roots Magic is because Roots Magic has integrated directly with the GenSmarts program. So again, if I look on Tools, you'll see that about 3/4 of the way down, there's a section called GenSmarts Suggestions. Now, it's showing up here because I have the program loaded on this computer. If the program was not loaded on this computer, this menu option would not appear. So if I click on GenSmarts Suggestions, again, it's popping up, and it is showing 5 different suggestions that GenSmarts is providing for Edward Smith Charles, since he is the person that I have chosen down here. So rather than just the 2 suggestions that are made in GenSmarts itself based on my GEDCOM file, it is suggesting 5 different sources based on information that I have loaded in Roots Magic. And if I can click on them and I get the information again about why it makes sense to research these records. And there is a look online option here, and we're going to do that in just a moment. If I go to my ancestor Charles, see if I can navigate up my tree. All right, so if I select Charles, like I did in GenSmarts itself, and ask for suggestions, you'll see here that there are, again, multiple suggestions. This is GenSmarts directly integrated in Roots Magic, reading information not from a GEDCOM file, but from Roots Magic itself. Now, the big question is, why do I care? All of these programs, Roots Magic, if I open that one back up, Roots Magic, Legacy Family Tree, Family Tree Maker, can offer me hints already. And I anticipated this question from y'all, so I went ahead and I asked Aaron Underwood, the designer, I said, why would I want GenSmarts if I already have a tree builder program that provides me with hints? And he pointed out, and correctly so, that what hints are providing you are links to records that it has found on public databases. So, for example, if you're connected to Family Search, if you're connected to Ancestry.com. If you're connected to MyHeritage, these various programs that provide hints are able to search for those records, and the hints say, hey, this is a record that you may want for your person. Now, it's not guaranteed that that is a match, but it is doing basic record matching. What GenSmarts is doing that's a little bit different is it's using its knowledge of record databases and saying, hey, your information, so for instance, in this case, the Cook County land transactions records may have something about your Charles Henry Thompson. Now, it's not searching online databases only. It knows that there's a Cook, Illinois County land transaction database, either online or in a variety of different libraries, and I'll show you in a moment what repositories it knows about, and is inviting you to go physically to those locations and do your research. If you can find those records online, it's not linking to a particular record, but it's linking to a collection of records that you may be interested in researching. Now, I am going to tell you something, and it's going to make a lot of you very, very sad, but somebody has to break the news. All genealogy data is not available online. That's right. If you were hoping that all of your research could be done with digital records online, I'm sorry to say that there are some records that you're going to miss. And that brick wall ancestor that you're trying to do research on but can't seem to find what you want is most probably documented in one of those offline repositories. Russ Worthington in the chat is pointing out that 90% of the records online. I do 90% of my research online, but I am aware that I'm missing out. What GenSmarts is making you aware of is collections that may or may not be online. So let's look at some of the other tabs in GenSmarts. There is a list here of research locations. And here, one of the popular ones, for instance, is the Allen County Public Library. And if I select that, you'll see here it is sharing information about where the Allen County Public Library is located. And I can actually pop up a link, and it actually takes me to the Allen County Public Library. Now, I don't want to spend time with doing that, but here, when GenSmarts knows, is a list of the variety of different collections that you could find at the Allen County Public Library. And if I click on one of those, it will actually give me the call numbers that I would need at the library to look for this record database. Russ is asking, is the repository list interactive, automatically updated from the repository? Russ, that's an excellent question. So I asked Aaron how current his database was, and the answer I got, well, if you look on the website, genealogyshowcase.tech, you'll see his response. It may not be the most current, but there are attempts as various updates come out to keep the list up to date. So a little vague there about how current this list is. When I was looking at some of these options, so here's one for Marshall-Webster County Library, and you see here that there are no connections or collections listed. So I don't know what indicates to where Aaron gets his information from, or how frequently he updates that information. But hopefully, if you're watching this episode of the Showcase, Aaron, you can respond in the Facebook page or on our website, make comments on the website, or email me directly, and I'll get that information out to you. Helen asks, are the repository only U.S. ones? Excellent question. Again, I don't know the answer. I suspect that there is a heavy bias I am not seeing anything with a quick scan here to point to international records. That raises 2 points about GenSmarts. Number one, it is US centric. So if you're doing research in other countries and not US based research, I'm not sure how valuable the program would be to you. The second thing I wanted to point out, and I should have said up front, is GenSmarts is a PC only program. So it's not available on the Mac. Now I will say this, I have used GenSmarts on the Mac using programs like Parallels that would allow me to use PC-based programs on a Mac computer, and I had no problems at all, but it is natively a PC program. Let's look at other tabs. Data cleanup, it is listing on this program for fixing place names. If I choose a place name here, the place name in question, Charlestown, comes from the birth event from it, so it tells me where I noted Charlestown as a place name. Now, how important is that? Well, it can be extremely helpful to have the full place name. So Charlestown, I know, is the Boston area. It would flesh that out to Suffolk County, Massachusetts, USA, providing me more likely detailed information about the place name. Most tree building software can do that. I know that Roots Magic can, I know that Legacy can, I believe that Family Tree Maker can, as well as some of the other ones. So place name correction has been integrated pretty much into the better tree building software programs. So as a place name research tool, that's not going to be the most important use of GenSmarts. However, correcting the place name in GenSmarts may help it to find more accurate suggestions for you in doing your research. If you look at the key on the legend on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that it does identify whether it's available online, whether it's available online for a fee, whether it's a source that I'm missing or one that maybe I have the source but haven't extracted all the information that I could from it. It will make suggestions about where you can find this data beyond simply identifying various library. Where the value I really saw came in was when I started playing around with the report option. If I look at print export, and let's go to the to-do list option, I can print a variety of different reports presenting me these suggestions in ways that I can use them in a what you might call a research log. I can choose which to-dos I want to print, and you'll see that I get an on-screen preview. So I can do only the ones I highlighted, only the ones I marked as plan to search. And I guess that's probably a right-click option. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't done that before. Interesting. This looks like it's showing me all the potential hits I might get on that record for others in my GEDCOM file. Can I click on plan to search? So I'm not real sure. Oh, there we go. So down here in the second half of the screen, there's a plan to search button. And you'll see now there's a blue icon around here. So I could, if going back to the reporting options, I could just choose the ones I plan to search, just ones I plan to search and I already found it, or I can print all the ones that are displayed in GenSmarts currently. So I'm going to choose, I want to print all of the suggestions that GenSmarts has given me. And then how much detail do I want to print? Well, I can choose to print just a to-do list, one line per to-do. I can choose to do moderate, multiple to-dos per page. I can do full, one page per to-do. Now I'm going to do that one, and it was a little squirrely earlier. Let's see what it does. So I've chosen one page per to-do, but I want you to print all the to-dos on the page. And I can, if I chose like a highlighted one, in some cases, and it's not in this case, but I have seen it do it, I can say, hey, I'm going to the Allen County Public Library. Show me all the to-dos from GenSmarts that I want to look up at the Allen County Library for this person. But it's not giving me that option. So I'm going to print all displayed, 1 page per to-do. And it's going to pop up. It's doing a little bit of work. It's offering to do the printer, but I'm just going to select preview. And I am going to, okay, so this worked. I have a PDF here that has 14 pages. And it's doing 1 per page. It's showing me the justification. It's giving me the summary that the database provided me about Charles, giving me recap information about others that might be involved in the search for whatever this record is. And it's showing me locations where I could potentially find these records. So, excellent opportunity to get a research log. Search Bristol County death records, search Bristol County land transactions, Bristol County probate records. Oh, that's one I want to remember to do later. Yeah, I definitely want to look at those later. So basically all 14 of the suggestions are now provided me in a preview format. Let's choose a different format. There was one that was a little more handy. Let's do the to-do list. And again, I'm going to do print all displayed. And this one's just giving me a very short list, not providing very detailed information, but what each collection type would be. So I probably wouldn't use that one myself. I want a little more information, and that's where the moderate seemed like a real handy option to me. Okay, I'm going to print that. And you see here that now I get a nice mix between full and concise. So here it's cemetery records in Bristol, Massachusetts, and it gives me the summary about why it makes sense, information about Charles Henry that I might want to use. I really like this one, death records. So it took those 14 records, and instead of displaying them in 14 separate pages with a lot of detail, this is a lot more concise. But it does, again, hit all the records. And now it doesn't have what I liked in the full page one, where each record was a single page, is it provided that list of repositories that it knows that those records exist at. So that was real handy. So it depends on what you're going to do, but you can use GenSmarts to generate basically a research log for a trip to one of these repositories that you may want to go to, including some online repositories. Now, there was one other option. Well, let me look at questions real quick. So is the repository list interactive and is automatically updated from the repository? I answered that one. I don't have a clear answer to that. Are the repositories only US ones? Answered that question. So a GEDCOM from Reunion can't be used. I would not assume that that's true. A GEDCOM is a GEDCOM is a GEDCOM, and while they're all a little bit different, don't confuse what pops up when I say file open. Don't confuse what's here as separate programs with what kind of GEDCOM files that it's selected. What this screen is showing me is that it can read Family Tree Maker files in their native format. It can read Roots Magic files in their native format. It can read Legacy files in their native format. And then down here, the one at the bottom, it can read GEDCOM files. And GEDCOM is a universal standard, and it doesn't care whether the GEDCOM file came from Reunion or PATH, a program that doesn't exist, or a program not on this list. So it's just a universal format. Will it be able to pick up everything? Again, if you saw last week's episode on GEDCOM imports, you know each program imports and exports files slightly differently. So you may not get the exact same results depending on which program that GEDCOM was exported from. But in general, yeah, it should be able to read a GEDCOM from Reunion or any other programs. How do things get added to the to-do list? So the to-do list basically is this list. And you can see here that when I build out this list, I have several options. I can do suggestions for a person. I can do suggestions for a family. I can do suggestions for a specific library or website. So let's choose one of those. Let's choose Family History Library. Ooh, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Let's do fold 3. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, so what it's telling me here in terms of building out the list is if I had a subscription to fold 3, and that's indicated that this is a paid subscription by the red icon, that these are potential hits that I might get in searching those records. So American Revolutionary War pension records for all of these. And if when I would print that out, to-do list, only the highlighted ones I want to print all displayed. And let's do moderate again. So it's actually generated 58 suggested research points that I might find a hit on fold 3. I can do it by so here's recently used filters, and I can do custom filters. Suggestions that fill holes. Well, that would be interesting. Let's do that one. These are, the suggestion is important because her place of birth and date of birth have not been recorded. So it is identified from the GenCom file places where I have not identified any records for birth for these people. And it is suggesting, what's the smiley face? Missing data. Okay, so it says smiling, hey, you've got no birth data for these persons. Heads up, heads up. And so it is making suggestions based on data that I don't have in the GenCom file for holes that I want to fill. Remember that the title of this was what had something to do with filling in the holes in your research. So that's an excellent one as well. But I really like by person, by family, by specific library, and by filling holes. But you can also zero in on the records that are available on. Let's see. The website, Deborah says, the website for GenSmarts says it supports research for the US, Canada, and the UK. There's also a little content for Australia. Russ also asked, does GenSmarts recognize the source information already in your database? So if you mean the sources that I have that I've uploaded by connecting to a database, or that I've uploaded from my GenCom file, the answer is yes. When I did some testing yesterday, I found that my raw GenCom file, I might get 2 suggestions for a person, but when I loaded in the information from, so let's say Roots Magic or Family Tree Maker, it only made 1 suggestion for that person. And the reason being is it recognized, it was not able to parse out my GenCom file and identify that I already had that source, but Family Tree Maker or Roots Magic was able to identify that source from my GenCom file. And so when I connected directly to that database, it recognized the fact that, oh, he already has that source. So it differentiates sources that I have but haven't fully made utilized versus sources that I may not have at all. Then when I started playing around with the reports, it's like, whoa, this is really helpful. So my opinion of the program changed the more I played with it. So one of the reports is call numbers, and that's probably handiest when I'm going to go to a specific library. So let's go to, I don't know, Arizona Government Web. No, let's not do websites. Brentwood Library. Well, okay, in this example, it's not pulling up. Let's go to one we know. Everybody knows, the Allen County Library. So let's go to that one. Let's do a printed report of call numbers. And I'm going to print for all displayed. Now, there aren't call numbers for all of these resources, but I can go to the, if I was at the Allen County Library, or I don't know if they do library exchanges from Allen County Library or not. Do you know, Russ? If you could, you may have a better insight into that than I do. But basically, I can say, hey, I'm looking for information about this, and here's the call number. Can you send that to me? Or can you, if there's a library exchange program, or if I'm there in person, I know that's the record that I want to look for. So that's real handy as well. I wonder where he gets that information from. And that's why he writes his program and I write mine. He knows the answers to those questions. What else do we have? Oh, here I knew there was date cleanup place names. If I pull up that report, oh, I set up, that's not what I wanted. It will tell me here for all the incomplete place names, it will tell me where, what value it matches against for various lookup values, county lookups. And again, I know some of the other programs will do that. This is telling me that under the covers, if I say Braintree, Mass, for instance, GenSmarts is automatically mapping that out to Braintree in Norfolk, Massachusetts. Somebody did ask in the chat, I remember, that does it know the differences in place names based on dates? And I do not know the answer to that question either. What that's referring to is the fact that, for instance, what is now a city in New Hampshire in the late 1700s was still part of Massachusetts, as an example, or county names that have changed. Either they've been split or merged. And a good place mapping program can tell you, based on the time period, what the correct name was for that time period. I know that's true in Roots Magic. I assume in Family Tree Maker and Legacy, as an example, that's true as well. Victoria Sullivan says, from my experience with Illinois, Allen County collection is research only, no loans. Makes perfect sense to me. I just wasn't sure. Let's summarize. When would I want to use GenSmarts versus just being happy with my tree builder hints? If I'm doing a physical, if I want to do some physical research and I really don't know where to go, or I'm doing some physical research, I know where I'm going, I want a list of all the resources that I should look at while I'm there so I can maximize use of my time. It looks like this is an excellent program for building out a research log or a research plan in kind of a draft format. Why did I choose GenSmarts to showcase? One of the things that I wanted to do when I started this program was to highlight and showcase what I consider to be underappreciated software. What is underappreciated software? It's software that may have been around long enough that it's kind of lost some of its luster, but still has all of its functionality or most of its functionality and can provide you some value. There's a lot of programs like that out there, and I hope to cover them all in the weeks to come. Not all of them will continue to be valuable, and it could be that I get to the end of a showcase and I can't necessarily recommend that you get the program. But GenSmarts is inexpensive, does provide some additional value as far as I'm concerned, and it could help you fill in some of those holes in your research. That's all for now. I want to thank you for joining us on the Genealogy Software Showcase.